Imagine this. You're sitting down and someone opens up their mono green deck box. They roll their mono green dice and they're going first with their new mono green commander. You see they're playing Dionus, Elvish Archdruid, and they say, I think this is the best green Elves commander ever. Obviously you're confused. So let's take a look at Dionus, Elvish Archdruid, and see if there's some merit to that statement. 4 mana 3/3 elves you control have whenever this creature becomes tapped during your turn, untap it and put a +1/+1 counter on it. This ability triggers only once each turn. So each elf gets that ability, which in a mono green elves deck, that just means you get to double your mana and grow your elves naturally. Now, there are elves that tap for tons of mana. Marwyn comes to mind. And there are elves that make your creatures bigger. Azuri comes to mind. But now we have an uncommon that does both. Get out of here. Don't actually get out of here. Like and subscribe. Let's take a look at what this deck list could look like. So my 2 favorite elves to play in any deck are Heritage Druid. You just tap 3 elves, make 3 mana, which you'll get to do twice on your turn. And Nettle Sentinel, which just keeps untapping anyways. And this card pairs perfectly with Heritage Druid. Obviously, you're playing Llanowar Elves, and Elvish Mystic, and Fyndhorn Elves. They probably have an Elfsaur Shepherd, so that nothing can be countered. It's also a win con, making all your elves into dinosaurs. We're playing Wirewood Symbiote. Turn an elf to your hand, untap a creature. Good way to double some mana. Good creature to untap, Priest of Titania. Checks all elves on the battlefield, not just yours. Brand new from MH3, we've got Card Draw with Eladamri Corvectol. You can play creatures off the top of your library, and since you get to play a green and tap 2 untapped creatures you control, you get to put creatures into play for free. On your turn only, but who cares? You can't play a mono green deck without Marwyn the Nurturer. She gets bigger and bigger, makes more and more mana. As a fun little side quest, you're going to play Guiltleaf Archdruid as well, because this deck runs like 11 or 12 druids. A lot of elf druids out there. So you got some card draw stapled onto it, but also tap 7 untapped druids you control and gain control of all lands target player controls. That's really fun. When you're ready to have a combo turn, play Glimpse of Nature. Obviously, we have a huge tutor with the Finale of Devastation. We're going to dump a ton of mana into it, make all of our creatures super big, and get to bashing. Your most typical consequence for Finale of Devastation is something like Craterhoof Behemoth. And you really do have to play this Secret Lair one, because winning with this guy on the battlefield is way too funny. You could also natural order into your Craterhoof Behemoth. That's fine too. From Foundations, we just got Preposterous Proportions. Another good win con for 7 mana, which is nothing in this deck. We're playing Crop Rotation, because this is a Gaia's Cradle deck, no question. Now, obviously, not everyone's going to have a Gaia's Cradle, but it's reasonable to think a dedicated Elves player will. Now, if they don't have a Gaia's Cradle, they're going to be playing Growing Rites of Itlimoc, then they might be playing both. This flips into Itlimoc, Cradle of the Sun, which is Gaia's Cradle on the backside. We do like that untapping that you get to do, so Legolas's Quick Reflexes belongs in the deck. It's just a ritual with some creatures. We also have Vitalize, which will untap all of our creatures, and this kind of makes triple mana. You're going to tap and add all the mana you can. All your creatures are going to untap. You're going to tap and add all your mana you can, and you're going to cast Vitalize and be ready to do it again. Now, some of the time, you're probably going to want to finish off with all your creatures tapped and play Throne of the God Pharaoh to finish your turn, to just drain your opponents. Also from Foundations, Banner of Kinship. This is some crazy buff to all of your elves. Quest for Renewal is going to turn your deck into a Seedborn Muse deck without playing Seedborn Muse. If you're really, again, in the Gaia's Cradle realm, you're probably on Survival of the Fittest as well, to just go find the best green creature in your deck. We've got another budget option here for Gaia's Cradle. Elvish Guidance turns one of your basic lands, or any land, into a Gaia's Cradle, which is kind of cool. Let's say Marwyn gets murked. We can turn Shifting Woodland into Marwyn and keep adding counters to it and keep tapping for mana. We're also going to play Urza's Cave, especially if we're playing Gaia's Cradle. And of course, Wirewood Lodge. Why wouldn't we pay a grain to untap an elf that makes a ton of mana? So, Dionus doubles your mana, makes your creatures big permanently. I could see a world where you play Doubling Season or Hardened Scales or something like that in this deck as well. But I really don't think you need it. You just go all in on classic elves and have a great time. Hope this helps.